Myself situated, then we're gonna get started real quick. Won't take me long. Won't take me long at all. Do I have volume here? Hopefully I do. Well, I just want to welcome you here today and thank you for coming out again. Just like to get started on my lesson for the week. It's been a joy and privilege to share with you guys. I want to introduce myself. My name is Pastor Larry Johnson, again from Middle Belt Baptist Church. I want to thank you for tuning in with me. I ask that you would comment on the side as I teach, and that you would give comments. I'm trying to work on being able to see the chats. It's taking me a while. I'm not that computer savvy, but I'm trying. We're coming back here every Tuesday. Try to come back here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. With the lesson. Sometimes right from the Word as I'm studying, and sometimes things that are happening in the world. I like to use biblical principles to apply to worldly situations. This is one of those times. Last week we got started, had a good lesson. We talked about basically, can you listen to music and leave unscathed? Meaning there's a kind of common understanding from people that they believe they can sit down and engage or listen to music or other entertainment and it not have any effect on their psyches, on their minds, and their thinking. And I think we did a relatively good job of proving last week that as a Christian, and even in the world, but particularly as a Christian, if you consume large amounts of inappropriate things, they will begin to make an impression on you. But I felt like that's a broad subject, and I felt like we just skimmed the surface. So I'm gonna do a part two. And part two is basically, is Satan involved in entertainment? Is Satan involved in entertainment? Now, most people will jump out, oh yeah, particularly Christians. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. But I wonder, can you prove that? That's the key. We're quick to answer that, and then when pressed about it, we can't prove it. So honestly, oftentimes Christians come off as conspiracy theorists. We just believe Satan's everywhere and in everything and doing everything. So when he's that much involved with everything, then you have a tendency to believe he's not involved in anything at all. Because when he's around every corner, every bend, we put him all over the place. But Satan is working strategically in certain places, and we got to be able to prove that from the Bible. So I just want to, kind of get into it today and see if we can get some depth to it, to see if we can learn anything. So I just want to give you a little small testimony of my kind of journey musically. I was saved at 20 years old, got baptized, gave my life to Christ for real at 20, and got baptized. But I'm still in college, still living in the world, still, learning how to walk this new journey, not knowing how, but still dealing with my old flesh. And I'm still listening to music. I finished playing football and took a job at a lockup facility for young boys. And my job was to work with the young boys. I got everything in there from, murder, rape, all that, armed robbery. So, I'm a direct care worker working with the kids, teaching them, preaching them, trying to show them a better way. And all of them had a kind of a thug mindset, hood mindset. My job was, I was teaching them, trying to say, get them to think different, talking about God and all that. But then when I go in my car after work, I had my, 6-disc CD changer, and I got, the best of the best, some Biggie, some Tupac, some Nas. I got them all in there, banging. And then one day I remember I was driving home from work, and God kicked me in the stomach. And he's like, you just was in there telling all those little boys and young boys and young teenage boys how wrong this type of thinking is that you don't agree with, and that will put them in prison or jail. But you playing it in your car. So I was 24 then, been saved about 4 years. So I took out the 6-disc CD changer. Back in the day, they used to have them in the trunk. I took it out and I cleaned it out and threw every CD. I had 6 CDs in there. I threw them all away. And to be honest with you, since that point, I was 24 and now I'm 48. I haven't purchased any, rap music and stuff like that. I've heard some songs, I've listened to them, no doubt about it. But for the most part, I haven't purchased any music. I'm not saying that to glorify myself. I'm saying it in the sense that God had to show me that you can't listen to that music, first of all, and preach to others, and then second, it's going to affect how you think. So so my last 2 CDs that I bought was Nas, It Is Written, and Tupac's All Eyes on Me. And I threw both of those away and a couple more. So we want to start last when we talked about guarding our mind. We talked about, it's important for you to guard your thoughts that come in and out. It's important for you to, take them captive, which means to arrest them, which means don't let thoughts that don't glorify God run around in your head all day. I like what a preacher said. He said, it ain't your fault if a bird land in your head, but it is your fault if you let him construct a nest. So, thoughts can come in your head all day, in and out. Your job is to not let that thought stay in there long enough to marinate. So Satan's plan attack is always to start in our thinking. Always. He knows that this thinking battle is going to go on for the rest of your life until you die, until the Lord comes back. Satan and God understand that the one who controls the mind controls the actions. Some of us know that who have studied a little bit about slavery. If you can get, particularly, when the Emancipation Proclamation happened, there's reports that many slaves didn't leave the plantation even though they was free. And y'all remember the statement Harriet Tubman said. She said, I could have got thousands more if they realized, that they were free. But most of them thought like slaves. So in the sense that slavery, a mindset took over where they just thought that's all they were, and they controlled their actions. And clearly Harriet Tubman felt in my mind, I'm free, and now my actions gonna prove that. In the same way, your thoughts control the actions. Both Satan and God know that. So one thing we got to establish right now, and this you would think you wouldn't have to, particularly with Christians, but you do. And I understand people in the world will be confused on this, but not Christians. So let me just give you this. I'm going to give you this right now, that we want to talk about this first. And that is Satan real? That's further, is he real? Now, you wouldn't think you would need to say something about this, but is Satan real? Does he exist? Is the question. There was a study done by Barna. Barna does Christian research. They studied with a sample size of 1,871 Christians. And it says that 4 out of 10 professing Christians believe Satan is not an actual being, but he's just a symbol of evil. So the word is merely symbolic. It's not actually a real being or person. So then we have to discuss, well, how do you define a person? Generally speaking, a person is defined by at least 3 things. A person must have intellect, the ability to attain knowledge. A person must have will, that is the ability to decide. And a person must have emotions. That's the abilities to emote or to have feeling, right? So they would say and argue, no, that's not a person. Satan's not a person. He's just a symbol of what evil is. 4 out of 10 Christians believe that. Another 2 out of 10 somewhat agree with that. So statistically speaking, 6 out of 10 Christians are not even sure he exists at all. Now, that tells us that he has won at least half the battle, because you can't fight against somebody who you don't know. You can't war against somebody who you don't even believe exists, or you don't even believe is a being that actually exists, that is the source of evil. So he, in some ways, he's kind of won already. This tells us that Satan is winning the battle of the mind. The greatest battle of the mind comes when he can convince you that he don't even exist. You can't truly fight somebody who you don't believe exists. Now, small point of contention. My objective is not to prove Satan's existence. That's another Bible study. But I will say this. One cannot acknowledge that good, as a Christian, good comes from an all-knowing, omnipresent, all-powerful, benevolent, compassionate being who has emotion, intellect, and will. And at the same time, deny that there's another being who has emotion, intellect, and will, from whose evil comes from. As a Christian, we all acknowledge that good comes from a source, and that source is all-knowing, all-powerful, eternal, faithful, compassionate, benevolent. He has intellect, emotion, and will. He has personhood. He has power. He has characteristics. He is an actual being, and that being is God. We acknowledge that. But then on the converse, to then say, well, no, but evil, that's just a symbol. So if if we can say it about evil, then that also can be ascribed back to goodness. Now we dealing with atheism now, or agnosticism, not really a being, but just he's a symbol. So if we can acknowledge that the good flows from a being, we also, by logical conclusion, should be able to acknowledge that evil also comes from a being. So we go back sometime and I'll do a study on Satan. But right now, for this study, we're going to give me my conclusion that Satan actually exists. He is a being with intellect, emotions, and will. Now let's go over this now. Last week we talked about him being the prince and power of the air. A better way of translating might be prince and power of the atmosphere. Right? This title is very interesting. That word prince is archon, which means a ruler. So let's translate again. He is the ruler of the realm of the atmosphere. He is a ruler. John 12:31 gives us a little more meat. It says, now judgment of this world is coming. The ruler of this world will be cast out. So John is speaking prophetically in John 12:31. John the apostle, and he said at some point judgment is coming, and at that point the ruler of this world will be cast out. Now when the Bible talks about the world, it is not specifically talking about earth, it is talking about the whole cosmos. So we mean what we can see with our eyes almost, or with telescopes. That's all him, right? He is the ruler of this world. Now let's do a little work on that so you clear. We got to do some work on that before we jump into the scripture. When we say Satan is the ruler of this world, the best way to think about that is to think about him having home field advantage. Anybody who's a former athlete, anybody who's played any sports, if you look at the playoffs now, well, not now because they're in that stupid bubble, but when they was out of the bubble, each team is playing during the regular season to get home field advantage. Why would they want that? Well, when you have home field advantage, you're not in a plane, you sleep in your own bed, you're in your own locker room, all the amenities that make you comfortable and you have. You come to your own stadium, you get to shoot around first, you get to regulate the shoot around times, lifting times, eating times, you get to regulate what music is played, you get to regulate who comes out first and in first. So in a sense, and then you get to play in front of all your fans, the majority of your fans. So in a sense, home field advantage is called advantage because in that moment, the home generally has the advantage. Now then the opposing team has to come and fight or battle on your terms and your place on your grounds. So let's make a parallel. When we say Satan is the prince and power of the air, what we're saying is that Satan is in absolute control, right? And has home field advantage against Christians. It's his earth, it's his cosmos, it's his rule. He's got home fort, it's his locker room, it's his music, it's his entertainment. All of that stuff is at his disposal to use against Jesus Christ's church. And Jesus is basically saying this by analogy. I'm going to give you home field advantage. You got the earth. It's all you. I'm going to come on your home field. I'm going to defeat you. Then I'm going to give my power to those who get saved and trust me. And then I'm going to use them to defeat you as well while you have all the advantages of home field advantage. So you needed to know that so to help you understand where we're going next. Now, where should we go next? I'm going to take you to Luke 4, 1 through 13. Luke 4, 1 through 13. And it says this. If you have a Bible, please open it. If you're driving, do not open, just listen. We're in Luke 4, 1 through 13. It says, then Jesus left Jordan, full of the Spirit, and was led by the Spirit in the wilderness for 40 days to be tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and when they were over, he was hungry. The devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread." But Jesus answered him, "It is written, man must not live on bread alone." So he took him up and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. The devil said to him, I will give you their splendor and all their authority, because it has been given over to me, and I can give it to anyone I want. If you then will worship me, all will be yours. Jesus answered and said, "It is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." So he took him to Jerusalem, had him stand on the pinnacle of a temple, and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from there, for it is written, he will give his angels orders concerning you to protect you, and they will support you with their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." And Jesus answered him and said, "Do not test the Lord your God." After the devil finished these temptations, he departed for a time. Now, I'm going to take you back to 1998. Now, I told y'all 96 was when I, started to, threw away all my rap and put it in a dumpster. And, I'm trying to cleanse my mind of all that foolishness. But then there was a song that came out in 98. That song was sung by a group called The Lox. And Lil' Kim was a guest, rapper on the song. And the song was Money, Power, and Respect. Lil' Kim sung the hook. And the hook goes like this. First you get the money, then you get the power, and then people will respect you. And I'm going to tell you something. That song was banging. It has been in my top 5 rap songs ever, from the beat to the flow. It almost had me back in the game, y'all. I had thrown away all my stuff, but I almost got that one. That song was hitting hard. Now, what she saying in that song? She said, first you get the money, then you get the power, and then people will respect you. So this is a song going out to everybody. First you get the money, then you get the power, and then people will respect you. So I want to take a look at Satan's temptations and compare it with that song. Because remember the objective, is Satan involved in entertainment? So look at verse 3 through 4 as we walk through this real quick. And it says this: the devil said, "If you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread." But Jesus answered him, "It is written, man must not live on bread alone." So point 1 is get the money. Get the money. Now understand this. Jesus lived his life with a human body. He is the only person with 2 natures. He is both fully God and fully man. So when he took on human flesh, that means that in some ways, well, not in some ways, he had the same desires we do: hunger, thirst, sleep. So understand that God don't sleep or slumber. Supernatural beings don't go to bed. They don't need to. We need to go to bed for rest. So when Jesus took on the body, he also took on the infirmities of a human body, the restrictions of a human body. I mean, he needed to sleep. He had to eat. If he didn't eat, he would starve. He had to drink water. He had, he felt pain, all of these kind of things. So now understand this. Just notice the text said he fasted. He fasted. Now in Matthew's version, he lets us know it's about a 40-day fast. And after that fast, Satan, tempted him and said, "If you're the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread." Now, that word "if" could also be translated "since." When we use "if," it's conditional. It means like we use "if" to question or we're unsure of somebody's existence. Well, we might say, if you're truly my father, then go take a DNA test. So that implies some type of unsurety. It's really a poor translation. The word should be "since you're the Son of God," which tells us Satan is not questioning if he's the Son of God. Satan is not unsure if he's the Son of God. Satan knows he is the Son of God. And that's why he had him tempted, and he's waiting there, and the Spirit led him to that point. So Satan is waiting for him for this temptation. He knows this is the Son of God. So when he's saying "since," essentially, he was actually throwing it back in as a dig. He was basically saying, since you're the son of, in other words, since you are just like your daddy, in all ways, power, majesty, glory, all of that in all ways, why would you not feed yourself? Why would you not exercise your authority? Why would you wait for your bread to come from him? Why would you wait when you can just turn this stone into bread? That lets you know that he knows that Jesus has the power to create ex nihilo. That's the power only God has. Ex nihilo means out of nothing. Everything man creates comes from pre-existing material, everything. But Jesus doesn't need wood to create a house. He doesn't need that. He creates the wood that creates the house, and he creates it out of nothing. So he can turn whatever he wants to into what he wants to. So since he could turn the stone into bread, that made Jesus like a walking money tree. Anything he needed or ever wanted, he could just create it. In a sense, that's what money can do. Rich people don't want for anything. They don't have to wait. They don't usually have to save. When they have a natural desire, hunger, a new house, a new car, a vacation, a new ring, they just buy it without any thought. In a sense, Lil' Kim's song, which says get money, a person would strive to get money so that they never have to want for anything. Well, Satan is basically telling Jesus, you don't have to want for anything. Why are you waiting? Feed yourself by your own resources. What was Jesus' response? It is written, man should not live by bread alone. This is powerful. He's basically saying man needs things that money cannot buy. There are more things essential. Most folk believe if I had to have money, everything would be okay. If I had money, all my problems would be gone. If I just had money, that's the thought. Rappers and athletes and entertainers and businessmen is if I just get more money, then everything will be good. Jesus is essentially telling when he says man should not live by bread alone, he's basically saying man has needs that supersede and that are more important than your physical natural desires. He is not saying there's anything wrong with your natural desires. Hunger, need, sleep, striving for a vacation house. I am not against those things. What I am saying is that there are things more important than those things. So in a sense, he was saying to Satan, look, that is important. I do need to eat, but I'm not going to exercise my own authority because it is more important in this moment for me to trust God to give me my food than me to do it myself. You follow my point? So I'm not against the accumulation of wealth. I'm not against a stock portfolio. I'm not against you saving your money. I'm not against you getting nice things. That would be a sin as well for me to say that. But what I am saying, and what I think Jesus is saying, there are things more important than money. He said, man shall not live by bread alone. In other words, man has other needs that supersede the human need to eat, to fulfill our natural desires. We have spiritual needs that Jesus is saying, and that spirit need is far more important than your physical needs. Look at the next now. Look at the next temptation. Satan wasn't done now. This is the threefold temptation. Look at verse 5. Then Satan took him into the atmosphere, if you will. So verse 5 says, so he took him up and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. The devil said to him, I will give you their splendor and all this authority, because that has been given over to me, and I can give it to anyone I want. If you then will worship me, all will be yours. And Jesus answered, it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. So look at verse 5. Satan essentially took him into the atmosphere. He gave Jesus a bird's eye view of the kingdoms of the world. In other words, they went on a little flight, a little plane, and got up into the atmosphere, into the clouds, and looked down on the earth and could look at the tops of the kingdoms of the world. And he basically said, look, man, look, Jesus, I can give you this power. I can give you this authority. Satan says, what man, I know Satan's thinking was, what man can resist this power and authority and all that comes with it? What man could say no to all of this influence and splendor and glory that he would receive as the ruler of the world? What man can get, who can turn away from all that power? And you should notice that he said, it's been given to me. Now you got to ask, by who? Well, clearly by God the Father. Or God has given him, like I said earlier, home field advantage. He's got it all, riches, honor, and glory. That's why, let me side note this. That's why I told y'all last week, when rappers, and now I'm speaking about rap, y'all. Let me not, I wanted to make this point. I'm not against it, as well as I'm not just beating up rap, but I don't listen to country. I've never listened to a hard rock song or anything, but all of these same things apply to all other genres of music. I'm just dealing with the ones I know about, that I've listened to. So this is not everybody on the hook on this one. I don't care what it is. But he says, notice he says, it has been given to me. Authority has been, I can give it to anybody that I want to. So in other words, I can take my home court advantage. And Jesus said, I'll give it to you. I'll let you rule. And he says, but you got to do one thing for me. What did he tell him? Verse 7. All this will be yours. You can have it all. And if you fall down and worship me. See that? If you fall down and worship me. In theory, then if he fell down and worshiped Satan, Jesus still wouldn't be in absolute total control, because essentially Satan would be in control of Jesus. Jesus would, in a sense, say, Satan says, if you eat out of my hand, I'll take care of you. I'll give you everything, whatever you want, Jesus, I'll take care. All you got to do is eat out of my hand. I give you everything your heart's desire. Particularly in this text, I give you all the power that you want. Now, y'all remember Lil' Kim's song, first you get the money, then you get the power, right? This is what Satan offered Jesus in this text, power. Now, what was Jesus' response? Always got to go over that. He said, it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Now, this is heavy right here, y'all. Jesus tells him that my desire is not power. I didn't come here to attain power. He tells him my desire is to make my father or make my daddy look good and be exalted, because he's the only one worthy of praise. In other words, Jesus said, I've come, right, not to do my will, but my Father's will. So my objective while I'm here is not my own authority and my own rule, but is to glorify my Father in heaven. So he's saying this, I'm not going to worship you, because if I worship you, that wouldn't bring glory to my Father. I'm going to skip over you and I'm going to let you have your kingdoms right now. You can keep those, and I'm going to worship my Father. This also tells me another thing, that Jesus clearly had his mind on something eternal. What Satan offered him was temporal. He offered him physical kingdoms. Well, let me tell y'all something, y'all. Every physical kingdom at that time in the world now does not exist. You got to think about that. So he might have raised them up, saw them Rome and Egyptian kingdoms and all of these kingdoms around the world. None of those exist in any strength right now. That lets us know. And at some point, I love the United States and I love being here. But at some point, if God tarries and he may be 100 years before he comes back, United States might not exist. So everything that he offered Jesus was temporal, right? Jesus understood, man, what you giving me now is going to leave. And when I think about rap and what they offer on the music, it's money, it's respect, it's power, it's sex, it's girls, it's money. Let me tell you something. All of that is temporal. All of it is. All of that is going to go away. So Jesus had his mind fixed on something that was more eternal, and that was the worship of his Father. Plus, he knew that my daddy has a kingdom that's not going away, that's eternal in God, that is going to rule. We're going to rule and reign with God for eternity. So why would I exchange the temporal for something I'm going to get anyway later when I fulfill his will? Why would I do that? So as Christians, as that Jesus said, you ain't going to tempt me with that, right? I'm going to worship God. Now, finally, remember Lil' Kim's song now. First you get the money, then you get the power, and then they respect you. Look at the last one, and this will be the final one. So he took him to Jerusalem. He had him stand on the pinnacle of the temple. We're talking about the Jerusalem's temple that right now, the Dome of the Rock, which is a Muslim site, the second most holy Muslim site where they believe that Allah ascended from. they built the Dome of the Rock on top of Jerusalem's temple. The Western Wall where they pray at and everything like that was built, by the Jews. And so it's built right on top of that. But at one point, it was a temple on there. This is where the Jews would sacrifice and things like that. Well, in this text, it tells us that Satan took him to the top of that temple. Look what he said. He says again, if or since you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here. For it is written, he will give his angels orders concerning you to protect you. They will support you with their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. And Jesus answered and said, don't test the Lord your God. Now look what he did. He took him up to the top of the temple and basically said, jump down. Just jump. Jesus, go ahead, bungee off the top of this temple. Now watch what he did. Then Satan quoted Psalm 91. Satan changed tactics. Basically said, okay, Jesus, since you using the Bible, I'm going to use the Bible. That lets us know something critical. Satan knows the Bible just like you, better than we do. He knows the word. So he quoted Psalm 91. He quoted the portion that said he will give his angels charge concerning you, right? And they will protect you. They will support you with their hands so that you would not strike your foot against a stone. In other words, he used a promise of God to protect you in the midst of battle or in the midst of it. He used that to basically say, well, look, Jesus, if you jump down off this temple and do a bungee and his angels rush from heaven, these supernatural beings rush from heaven and get under you so you don't hit the ground and die. When people see that, they will, guess what? Respect you. They will worship you. They will revere you. They will fear you. All of those things. They will fall down and worship you, right? You will have what you, so in the sense, Jesus say, same in the sense that just jump down, he gonna send it, they gonna hold you up and respect you. Watch this. You will not have to get spit on. You will never get kicked out of towns. You won't go hungry. You won't get your beard pulled like you did when you was being crucified. You won't be whipped by soldiers and you won't have to be crucified. You will be good. You'll have all the respect that you desire. No one will question who you are. No one will wonder, is that the Son of God? They will know from that act when they see angels fly from heaven and these supernatural beings keep you from hitting the ground. It will be sure who you are. So he offered them, y'all. Now look what Jesus said. Always go to the promises now. Jesus' response. He said, do not test the Lord your God. Now, each of Jesus' response come out of Deuteronomy, from the word, from the Old Testament. He said, don't test the Lord your God. Now, this is a rebuke to Satan. When I say a rebuke, let me just say it's a kick in the stomach to both Satan and us. This is for those folk who like to get outside of God's will, to go off on somebody, to do something they want to do, because they know God is a forgiving, compassionate, loving God. It's like the people who say, and I've heard it before, and I know you've heard it, I know this is wrong, but God gonna forgive me anyway, so I'm gonna do it. Jesus tells Satan and us, don't test the Lord's patience, his kindness, his compassion to get either respect, to go off. You know how we do. Somebody does something to us, and as Christians, God tells us to forgive. God tells us to be kind to those who despitefully use us. It tells us to, not pay evil for evil. But we get mad enough and, nah, Lord, I'm going to have to put that aside. I got to get my what? Respect. So you get outside of God's will and go off and then come back. Oh, God, you're going to have to forgive me. You're going to have to forgive me. That's the same thing he was asking Satan was asking Jesus to do. Jesus, go ahead and show him who you are. You ain't that poor servant that you look like, dusty road carpenter who needs other people who can't feed himself because he's poor. That ain't who you are. Show him who you are, and then they'll respect you. So in other words, when you look at these things, let's make some conclusions. You see that Satan offered Jesus three things: money, power, and respect. First John tells us that these are the three temptations that Satan uses. The lust of the flesh, which is that money, the lust of the eyes, which is that power, and the pride of life, which is that respect. And so this lets us know clearly the Lox probably, when they made that song and Lil' Kim, they didn't recognize their connection to the Bible and Satan, because Satan, like God, because they're spirit beings, they use human vessels to do their will. So as Christians now, the Spirit of God comes to live within us, and then God's presence is manifest to the world because he uses our bodies as vessels. Well, Satan is doing the same thing with people who don't know Christ. He uses them as vessels. And I have just proven to you from this text, from this particular verse, that there is a direct connection between Satan and entertainment. So let me finalize this. So then, Pastor, what you saying? What can I listen to? Does it all have to be Christian music? And I'm going to say this. Human acts, and this is the conclusion, fall into three categories. Three. Every human act, everything we do falls into three categories. It is either immoral, amoral, or moral. Immoral means something that's evil all the time. Let me give you an example. Murder in the first degree. You notice I didn't say killing, because if somebody walks into my house who I don't know and is trying to do something to my family, I'm justified by the word of God to kill him or her. I said murder in the first degree. Anytime you plot and plan to kill somebody, that's always wrong. Always. Then you have amoral acts. Amoral means neither good nor evil. I means no, and moral. So it means there's no morals to it. It's neutral. It can become good or it can become evil based on what you do. You know the scripture everybody quotes all the time. You know what the Bible says about money, for money is the root of all evil. So they have made money immoral. Money is the root of all. The text don't say that. The text says for the love of money. So then money is not evil. Money is amoral. Neither good nor evil. It is neutral. It is your love and heart or use of money that becomes good or evil. So some things are amoral. They're neutral. Then there are some things that are always moral. Like a man being faithful to his wife. That's always moral. That's always good. A man loving his children, taking care of his family. It's always good. So ask yourself, as you go to any kind of entertainment, means movies, some of the people you hang out with. Let's say this. So using that, if a person said, well, Pastor, I'm a Christian, but you know, I enjoy going to the strip club occasionally. Well, that's always immoral. You can't sanitize. That's not a moral activity. But then a person might say, Pastor, I'm going to the movies this week. Well, going to the movies is amoral. It's neither good or evil. It depends on what you're looking at, right? And then someone said, Pastor, I'm going to go to Bible study to learn more about you and learn more about the Lord. Well, that's moral. That's a good thing. So you need to ask yourself, when you go to entertainment, where do those fall? What are you doing? Because Satan can take amoral things and make them immoral all the time. And immoral things, you don't even need to get any answers for that. You know they're wrong when you do them. So I just wanted to show you in this text, in this scripture, how intertwined that Satan is in entertainment. I hope you come back next week. I'll be happy to see you again. And please comment, encouragement, as well as rebuke any questions that you see. Maybe you got concerns of how I interpreted the scriptures. As long as you are appropriate, I'm willing to answer back and have some discussion. Thank you and have a good week. I'll see you next Tuesday.